Today I want to focus on the talks process and the political crisis in the North, and also to speak about Brexit. This Saturday will mark 9 months since our dear friend, leader and colleague Martin McGuinness announced his resignation as Deputy First Minister as a direct result of the DUP's failure to accept the principles of power sharing and parity of esteem, to implement previous agreements, and because of their handling of the RHI crisis. Let there be no doubt, Martin McGuinness did the right thing at the right time. As a member of the executive, I witnessed how he led the way in working with successive DUP leaders. He continually reached out on the basis of equality, respect and reconciliation, and he did so because it was the right thing to do, and I'm firmly committed to continuing on with that legacy. The Sinn Féin track record in government speaks for itself. We not only worked the institutions, but we heavily invested in them over the last 10 years, right up until the point of collapse. Over the course of the last 9 months, we have fought 2 elections, and the people understood the importance of these elections, and this was reflected in voter turnout, the largest seen since the signing of the Good Friday Agreement back in 1998. The support for the Sinn Féin party in both the Assembly and the Westminster elections was an endorsement of a new way, a demand for absolute respect, integrity and common decency and rights for all, a demand for power sharing as it was originally agreed. An overwhelming majority of nationalist community came out and gave their support to our party. And we will use that support to be a driving force for good and lead the North forward into a new political era where citizens have rights, and those rights are delivered and respected regardless of who you are or where you come from. There cannot and there will not be any tolerance of inequality, discrimination or second-class citizenship for anyone in our society, be they women, LGBT community, Irish speakers or ethnic minorities. Turning then to the political talks, and there has been 3 phases of political talks to date. 3 phases which have not produced the right basis in which to form a sustainable executive. And I want to update you on the current state of play. But first, I want to tackle and take the opportunity to address directly the claims by some of our political opponents that Sinn Féin do not want the political institutions restored in the North, either because they claim we want to destabilise the North, either because they claim that we want to, even more bizarrely, that we don't want to enter the institutions in the executive so as to maximise our electoral prospects here in the South. These assertions are not only untrue, but they're patently absurd, they're illogical, and they do not stack up. And here's why. Firstly, put simply, it's not in our strategic interests. Our political strategy is premised on effective and functioning government. We are fully committed to the Good Friday Agreement, an agreement which we negotiated and signed up to. We are committed to these institutions because they provide the democratic vehicle for addressing the day-to-day issues which confront the people of the North. Secondly, we want the political institutions restored because they include the critical All-Ireland structures delivering important benefits for the people right across this island and underscoring the benefits of all Ireland approaches and actions. They include practical examples of cooperation in areas such as children's cardiac services and cancer services in the North West. And lastly, Micheál Martin cannot genuinely believe what he is saying. And if he does, he's being badly advised on the North. He and others who make such bogus arguments know that they fly in the face of logic, and they do so only to serve their own narrow self-interests. Sinn Féin want to bring about fundamental societal change right across this island. This therefore requires us to be in government in both Dublin and in Belfast. I reject absolutely the arrogance of the Fianna Fáil leader and others in Fine Gael who say Sinn Féin is not fit to be in government in Dublin. Well, I have a message for them. It'll be the people that will decide that. For us, part of delivering societal change means the implementation of outstanding agreements in the North. The Irish Government has a responsibility to hold the British Government to account on all of these issues, and thus far they have not succeeded in doing this. Irish language rights are a central part of the Good Friday Agreement, and Acna Gaeilge is part of the 2006 St Andrews Agreement. This issue has both practical and symbolic importance in recognising and respecting Irish national identity. Many citizens who may not speak Irish but believe that those citizens who do wish to should have the protection in law. And I welcome Arlene Foster's recent comments in acknowledgement of this. Irish language speakers are entitled to the same language rights as enjoyed by citizens in other parts of these islands. Marriage equality is another one of those rights-based issues that is at the heart of the current political impasse. Who can logically explain to a loving couple that they cannot marry in the north, but can do so here in this state and elsewhere on these isles? It's time for new progressive politics. It's a new era, and a shared society, which means equality and respect for every citizen, regardless of who you are, where you come from, or who you love. It's also time for the British Government to stop denying families access to legacy inquest funding. They need to stop hiding behind the guise of so-called national security and make the funding available in line with the Lord Chief Justice's request. And they must act now without further delay. So many challenges remain, and we in the Sinn Féin leadership will continue to play our part and make every effort to find a solution to the political crisis that exists. However, any attempt to put the cart before the horse and form an executive whilst at the same time having a parallel negotiation would guarantee failure from the outset. A new executive will be hamstrung from the beginning, so let's get it right. In the past fortnight, I have met with all the party leaders and with both governments. And the Sinn Féin and DUP leaderships have, for more than a week now, been engaged in intensive dialogue to determine whether political progress is possible. We do believe progress is possible and therefore are ready to re-engage in a formal negotiation together with all of the other parties and both governments to try and reach agreement in a short, sharp and focused negotiation. And this process should begin now and without delay. Turning then to the issue of Brexit, and it's one of the most severe challenges that Ireland will face in the time ahead. It's going to dominate and radically change the political landscape for years to come. We know the impact it will have on our business, trade, agri-food, tourism and other sectors of the economy, with the imposition of trade tariffs, a border and other detrimental limitations placed upon us. Our economy, just like our population, does not exist in splendid isolation. Our collective economic future lies with relationships north-south, east and west. The threat to the economy arising from Brexit cannot be overstated. There is growing concern in the north and on the entire island of Ireland about the economic consequences of Brexit and the negative implications of which are already becoming clear. A special status relationship outside of the EU will do little to deal with the massive political, social, economic challenges that are thrown up. The North is collateral damage in what is a reckless Tory agenda, and while the majority of Assembly members in the North are anti-Brexit, who will argue the case for our unique special circumstances, the onus is firmly on Simon Coveney and the Irish Government to defend the national interests of the entire island. We cannot withstand exclusion from the single market and customs union, allow the return of the borders of the past, or deny citizens access to the European Courts of Justice. So there is an urgent need for new thinking. Sinn Féin believes that the only credible approach is for the North to be designated a special status within the EU and for the whole island of Ireland to remain within the EU together. We also believe strongly that the EU itself must be radically reformed, which must be decided by all member states as equals rather than a dominant force within it. So clearly there are many challenges. These challenges need to be addressed head on. The route map to establishing an executive is clear. It's reasonable, it's achievable. Implement previous agreements, deliver equality for all, embrace genuine partnership government. That's when we will establish a sustainable executive that respects all citizens now, that delivers citizens' rights now, and wins public confidence now. Míle buchas, gur míle maiogaibh go leor.